The House rams through an anti-Semitism bill to prevent denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination, which is a good thing. However, buried in the bill is a provision that states, quote, using symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism, like claims of Jews killing Jesus, that's going to be the problem. Because this can be employed to bring division between evangelical Christians and Jews just in time for the 24 election. Next, Kristie Noem is in hot water over a story she wrote in her political memoir about shooting a dog on her farm 20 years ago. Noem is receiving resounding condemnation from some, even on the right, like those who took over the seat of Maha Rushdie and the golden EIB microphone. Hi, Clay and Buck. But is this reaction justified? Also, Pope Francis changing church doctrine, quote, based on popular common sense. What does that mean? We'll discuss what it means for the Catholic Church and the rest of Christianity. Finally, according to a newly released report by the American Security Project, nearly 70% of our military is overweight. Recruiting requirements have been pretty much determined to be a joke. This is something that could easily be fixed, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like anything is going to change. All this and more today on Exposed, the Calo podcast. Israel makes a so-called generous offer to Hamas, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, the House passes H.R. 6090. And this bill effectively criminalizes a simple act of reading the Bible, all under the guise of combating anti-Semitism. It's an outrageous assault on our freedoms, and we must resist this bill at all costs. Christian conservatives keep saying that, they've woken up and, we know what's going on with the deep state. But right here in front of our eyes, Christian conservatives, and our House of Representatives just passed through this bill without even realizing what they were doing. What the heck is going on? Don't they recognize that this leaves us wide open for persecution? Actually, it's going to turn Christians against Jews and Jews against Christians. This is a dangerous bill. I believe it could backfire on American Christians and even cause a rift between Judaism and Christianity. We cannot and we should not use an international organization's definition of anti-Semitism, and that's what they're doing in this bill. The International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, we're using their definition. So we need to amend this bill to protect our First Amendment rights. The part of it is the kill Jesus portion of it. And according to the gospel accounts, Jewish authorities in Roman Judea charged Jesus with blasphemy and sought his execution, but they lacked the authority to have Jesus put to death. So they brought Jesus to Pontius Pilate, who was the Roman governor of the province at that time, who authorized Jesus' execution. If we give the government as much power as this bill will give the government, it's going to backfire, and it will empower the government to police our thoughts and our views instead of our actions. That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, how can we give this kind of power to the government when someone can interpret, well, I think you were trying to do this, or it looks like you were trying to do that, or I think you were thinking this. That's insanity. This has to be changed completely. Wow. And speaking of actions, listen to this. South Dakota Governor Kristie Noem, she's been the topic of some anger from the left, but also from the right. She published in her recent memoirs, The Guardian on Friday, in her book, No Going Back. That was the title of her book. The truth on what's wrong with politics and how we move forward in America. In the book, Noem details how she put down one of her dogs because the dog was uncontrollable. Her confession has brought all kinds of criticism. Not surprising from the left. Okay, we expected that. But actually from those on the right as well. We have people all over the country now calling out Kristie Noem as if she's some kind of demon. It's ridiculous. she wrote this. I'm just going to read a portion of it, but this was her tweet. I can understand why some people are upset about a 20-year-old story of my dog Cricket, one of the working dogs at our ranch. I spoke about it in my upcoming book, No Going Back. The book is filled with many honest stories of my life, good and bad days, challenges, painful decisions, and lessons learned. She goes on to say this: the fact is, South Dakota law states that dogs who attack and kill livestock can be put down. Given that Cricket had shown aggressive behavior toward people by biting them on numerous occasions, may I add, I decided what I did. See, she made the decision based on something that was clear and true, and the dog was a danger. So she explained in her book all of this, and this is something that happened over 20 years ago, well behind in history. And now all of a sudden we've got the left going crazy and trying to take pot shots at Kristie Noem. But on top of that, we also have people, on the right. One of the sad parts to me is when we have people, for instance, like Clay and Buck. They do a great job, by the way. They took over the golden EIB mic from Rush as Rush went home to be with the Lord. But here's the key. Clay and Buck do a wonderful job, as I said. But I think they jumped on the bandwagon too soon by saying, well, this knocks her out of the political arena completely. I sent an email to those guys not expecting a return, but I did get one, and I was kind of excoriated. This is and I was taken back by it. Clay, Buck, listen, I think you got a good point that actually bringing this up in the book may have not been the greatest thing for her to do. Okay, I can see that. But should we be like the Democrats and throw our own under the bus? When do we start to stand up for our own and say, look, what she didn't do anything wrong? Oh, no, we're just too afraid. We don't want to start bringing, criticism of ourselves in our show. Now, I know you guys aren't afraid to take criticism. So I guess my question to you is, why did you throw under the bus so quickly? I think you may ought to rethink what you said, back up a little bit, do a little retraction, because I think Kristie Noem has got a great future. I don't know if she's going to be President Trump's vice presidential pick or not. She was my choice. I know she's maybe not the greatest candidate, according to some on the right, but I think she would have been a great choice. But regardless of that, she is a wonderful and very, very strong candidate for future in the politic arena in and on the right in America. So, guys, rethink what you said. I think it's going to make a difference. I never thought I'd see the day when the right sells out our own. But speaking about never seeing the day, I never thought I'd see the day where our own police departments embrace the pride movement. That's what's happening all over the country right now. But first, we're going to start off in Toronto because, it's outside the United States. And, let's see what Toronto is doing. Well, Toronto, they got their vehicles all decked out with pride. That's right. But then, of course, we have America following suit. See, anything that happens in Canada, it actually eventually makes its way into the States. Miami, Nashville, NYPD, Seattle, Indianapolis, Austin, Wisconsin, all of them embracing the gay movement. Are you kidding me? I don't know. I don't get it. Why would we want to start embracing these who are trying to change our culture? That's one reason why we have so many people coming against the police. It's these on the left, LGBTQ plus AI, whatever. All these guys or gals or, people, or I don't know what you're supposed to call them. I'm all confused. But anyhow, they're the ones that are always complaining about everything. Why would we want to embrace it? I don't know. But I guess if the police can, relax their laws and rules to embrace culture, hey, why not the Pope? That's right. Pope Francis is calling for a paradigm shift in the Catholic Church. And his idea is this: to make theology more suitable for the mission of our time. Pope Francis wrote that Catholic theology must experience a, quote, courageous cultural revolution in order to become, and I quote, fundamentally contextual theology. What? I don't even know what he's talking about. Pope Francis called for the reinterpretation of the Gospels and a new theology based on popular common sense. They want to be able to take science and culture and somehow combine that with this new idea of theology. And what that basically means to me is the end of Catholicism, which is fine with me. I left Catholicism many years ago. I grew up, went to a Catholic grammar school, all boys Catholic high school. But this Pope, he is stepping out on his own, and that's the title of what he wrote. He wrote it on his own accord. It isn't the Catholic Church per se, but he is the pontiff. He is the Pope. He is the one who supposedly hears directly from God or whatever. But in any case, this guy is opening up the church to a cultural revolution, which I believe is going to be the demise of the Catholic Church. And this could be the end for them. I mean, the Catholic Church is already losing thousands of parishioners every single day here in America. There are certain places in the world where Catholicism is growing, but not here in the States. So it may be the end for them. And speaking of the end, is there an end in sight for the hostages? Israel makes this supposed generous offer to Hamas. The hostages, and we have a picture coming up on the screen here. These are the men sitting around, Antony Blinken, sitting around with the leaders of Hamas in Qatar. Now, I don't know about you, but I look at this picture and I get sick to my stomach. I'm sitting around smiling, around this round table, a very lavish room, and, all the guys dressed in their garb over there. These are enemies of America. And I don't care how they dress and how much money they give and what they do. They're enemies of America. And we have our leadership there negotiating with them for the release of the hostages. Think about this for a moment. There's something wrong with this picture. That nobody negotiates. We have 6 Americans still being held hostage. We don't negotiate with terrorists. We don't. Regardless of what Israel wants to do with theirs, okay, they want to give up 1,000 Palestinians, give them back to Hamas, the ones that they have held captive, in order to get back the hostages that they have. We don't follow suit, or we shouldn't, but we have a weak administration. Hamas is considering a new framework proposed by Egypt that calls for the group to release as many as 33 hostages. Okay, they got 100 and something hostages. They're going to release 33? These hostages were all kidnapped and held, so many of them beaten, many of them abused. And they're laying out this negotiation in 2 phases. The first phase originally called for 20 hostages, but they're trying to increase it to 33 hostages to be released over several weeks. In the meantime, Israel is going to release thousands of Palestinian prisoners who have been caught in the act of terrorism. This is all nonsense. This is all crazy. And it's all because we don't have a strong leader in place, because Biden is weak. If Trump were in office, Trump and Netanyahu would sit down and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We know we have hostages. We know we have 6 Americans there. But at all costs, we've got to get our men and our women back at all costs. What do you think is going to happen from these negotiations? Well, what's going to happen is they're going to get more money as well. They have all the money. Why are we giving them our money? Why are we sending money to Hamas? But yet they want Americans to be able to give, help to those who are in Gaza. Do you know who wants Gazans? Nobody. That's right. Jordan don't want the Gazans. Egypt don't want the Gazans. But guess what our leadership is trying to do? Biden and Blinken, these are the stooges. You heard of the stooges? Yeah, well, this is 2 of the 3 stooges. There they are. That's them. We got the stooges running America. Biden, at this point, is also looking to, guess what? Welcome Palestinians to America. That's right. He has the gall to be able to say, hey, you're welcome over here. We're willing to give, we just want you to ask a few questions. Of course, they're not going to ask any real questions. And besides, even if they do, they're not going to ask them to prove. So they can say, hi, my name is Joe Biden. And they'll go, oh, we have a Joe Biden here too. He's president. I mean, they're not going to ask anything serious. They're going to welcome into America. That's right. Give them free food, free this, couple of cards, maybe even give them a license and give them the right to vote. Unbelievable. A senior Hamas official voices support for college protesters. He calls them leaders of the future. That's who's sitting around that table, folks. People who believe that the leaders of the future are the radicals that are trying to destroy America from within. It's happening all over the place. We have Hamas supporters here in America. On our college campuses, there's been a number of arrests recently, all over New York, in LA. And it's only going to increase because they're not going to give up because they're being paid. We have paid agitators who are working behind the scenes to instigate those in the colleges, which are mainly Americans, but we have a lot of foreigners as well. But these young folks are ignorant, let's face it. They just are. They've been brainwashed by their professors. I really don't blame them as much for being as crazy as they are. But all of these protests on the campuses have been orchestrated by coalitions of student groups with the financial aid of many NGOs, okay, non-government organizations, as well as far-left activists. Foreign governments, like, for instance, Iran, Qatar, Sudan, and Syria. They're the instigators to everything that's going on here. Our government knows that the colleges receive money, but because they're a nonprofit, they don't have to really give details on what they do with that money. And that money goes to organizations on the campus that are formed by students and outside agitators to be able to do what they're doing right now. My first question came to mind is, wow, all these tents kind of look the same. They're different colors, but they're all basically the same. Where did they come from? Well, it wasn't the students buying the tents. They didn't just show up there. No, these are the groups and the agitators behind it that supply them with the signs that they're carrying around, supply them with all the tents, supplied them with the food because they were complaining that the colleges weren't giving them any food, weren't giving them any water. So where are they getting the food? Where are they getting the water? Where are they getting the banners? Oh, and by the way, where are they getting the garb and the dresses that they're, headdresses that they're wearing? See those headdresses, the black and white? That's the traditional garment of the Palestinian. Where do you think that comes from? That's right, Palestine. Where did they get it? From Palestinian supporters. They're all wearing the same thing. Doesn't that ring a bell inside your head? It does with me. They're wearing a scarf that symbolizes something synonymous with the Palestinians. It's called a keffah. Keffiyeh, whatever, keffah. Also known as a hata. Yeah, I kind of like that word, hata. It's a traditional Arab headdress. Oh, and by the way, we actually have some in our government who wear the same headdresses when they go into the Capitol. That's right. Where do you think these people are from? They're from our enemies. We've got them encamped on our colleges. We've got them entrenched in our government, and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. This next video is extremely interesting because what it shows is our government's desire to be able to help the Gazans, as I mentioned earlier, to come here to the United States. Our government is working hand in hand with our enemy. And we begin to wonder, how is this even possible? Why would our government work with those who are against us? Unless they're looking to cause chaos. Let's look at this. Here it is.
This news exclusively on CBS News. The Biden administration is considering a plan to allow some Palestinian refugees to come here to the United States. That's according to internal federal government documents that were obtained by CBS's Camilo Montoya Galvez. According to the plan, some Palestinians fleeing the war would be offered a permanent safe haven here in the U.S. And one option under consideration is to allow those who have immediate family members who are either American citizens or permanent residents to enter the country if they pass various background checks first.
Did you get that? See, right now in America, we have many of Palestinian, quote unquote, descent. Okay, whatever that means. Okay, no such thing anyhow, but they, Palestinians. So our government wants to bring in the relatives. And by the way, it doesn't tell you just close relatives. They're talking about distant, my cousin's cousin's third cousin's cousin. Biden wants to open it up to all of them to, well, come on over, reunite with your family. So all of the crazies that have been indoctrinated since they were little kids to hate Jews and Americans, because America's the big Satan, Israel is small Satan, they've all been indoctrinated. So we want to bring over more Palestinians who have also been indoctrinated since they were kids to come to the United States because we're just such a great country. We welcome all. Come on in. Don't worry about a thing. Listen, we're going to change your mind. Oh, yeah, right. We're not changing their mind. They're coming here to work from within to destroy America. And to me, this is bizarro world. But I guess that's the kind of world we live in. Bizarro world. And speaking of bizarro, listen to this. Trump was held in contempt in order to pay $9,000 and threatened with jail by the crazy judge, Mershon. In other words, Trump can... By the way, when you look at him, what's your first thought? Yeah, that's mine too. He has a daughter. So maybe he goes both ways. That could be. I don't know. Now, his daughter happened to work for an organization that raised money for the left, for the Democrats. Anyhow, listen, these guys are all tied together. Mershon's daughter was a senior executive at a super liberal Democrat firm. She worked with Joe Biden. She worked with top Democrats, including Barack Obama in the past. And the name of the organization is called Authentic Campaigns. Oh, yeah, we're going to have an authentic campaign in the United States. Yeah, all run by liars and thieves. What they do is digital campaign work, online, fundraising. They do mobile messaging, web design, and guess what? Her name has been scrubbed from the website ever since her daddy took on the job of being the judge over Trump's case. Unbelievable. And this guy, by the way, he's not really a judge. Okay, he was appointed. He's a graduate of a very famous university, Hofstra University. Where's that? What? Wait, I think it's a second or third-rate liberal brainwashing institute located on Long Island. I think it's about 3,000 square feet. I don't know. Who ever heard of Hofstra University? I never heard of it. I know a lot of people went to law school. This guy is only an acting New York Supreme Court judge. Acting. He was put there by the political left to do their lawfare against their opponents, including Trump. And unbelievable to me. And breaking today, the appeals court denied Trump's request to have Mershon recused. Of course, we expected that. It's New York. No way they're going to turn on their own. They're all part of the same, system working together. And it's really, to me, it's just more proof of the weakening of our justice system, especially in New York. Many business owners, and I know a lot of business owners in the New York area have for many years. Many of them are, if not already moved out, planning to move out of New York in the coming months, regardless of who wins the election in 24. And that's all because New York has just gone over the edge. Many of their famous buildings are now being used as housing for immigrants. We have business owners, building owners, and hotel owners have all kind of sold out to the government because it's big money. And in a way, I guess, you can't blame them. They're trying to get as much as they can. They realize that this is a problem. But here it is. These business owners are actually helping the demise of America, all for the sake of the mighty dollar. So there is a wealth transfer going on right now. Those of you who are Christians, you heard about the wealth transfer in the Bible. There is a great wealth transfer happening right now. We've got trillions of dollars being spread out all through the economy. The problem is it's not going into the right hands. The weakening of America is the goal of this administration. You can't convince me any different. And I don't think you would think any different. But I'm going to give you something to think about. If you're unsure that they're trying to weaken America, here it is. We have a weakened military. Our military has been degraded to the point where we have men and women in the military right now who can't even do 10 pull-ups. That's right. What about hand-to-hand warfare? What about combat? Nearly 70% of active service members are considered overweight right now, according to the American Security Project. This is a report that they just released. It just came out in the past 30 days. More than 2/3 of active duty service members are within the overweight to obese ranges of the BMI, body mass index. And this is all a result of the new DEI standards and the government's refusal to call out the unhealthy and obese members of our military because they don't want to offend people. Here's some pictures of our people. I guess they would rather have the fat, the transgendered, the effeminate, the weak, the pathetic in our military rather than the strong fighting men and women who have been in our military branches ever since I can remember and many of you can remember. Most of the branches have softened their fitness standards. The Navy has nixed sit-ups completely and made the traditional 1.5 mile run, they made it optional. Who's going to do it if it's optional? Only the crazies. Those are the ones we need. The crazies are going to be the ones who are thin. The crazies are going to be the ones that are willing to fight for America. All the others are going to be lazy, fat people sitting down on their butt back in the barracks. Anyhow, sailors, they can now get to choose from a 2-kilometer row, a stationary bike ride, time on an elliptical machine, or a 500 or 450 meter swim. Hey, at least they get a choice. For 40 years, Army fitness tests consisted of 2 minutes of push-ups, 2 minutes of sit-ups, and a 2-mile run. The new standards are, well, different. The 2-mile run remains, but soldiers have more than 21 minutes to complete it. 21 miles. I can walk 2 miles in 21 minutes. What the heck? Oh, Jesus help me. I don't know. The push-ups are still around, but the minimum number in order to pass is 10. Listen, I've got some old friends of mine. They're like 80, and I know they could do 10 push-ups. Only the Marine Corps, okay? Only the Marine Corps. They have not reduced their physical standards. Thank God we've got one military that's still deciding to stick to strong military standards. The Marines have used the few, the proud, and the Marines as their ad slogan. That goes all the way back to 1977. I think maybe Biden needs to enlist a new slogan for all but the Marines, and here it is. The few, the fat, and the fagged out. Yeah, you may not think that's a word, but it actually is. Fagged out. I got something that's really outlandish. Ever hear of Kazakhstan? Kazakhstan. To me, it was nothing more than a third world wasteland. I mean, you may have heard of Borat. You remember Borat? There he is. You have a funny looking guy, you know. Oh, yeah. The Borat, there was a couple of movies, Borat 1, Borat 2, whatever. The movies were placed in Kazakhstan. And all the movies depicted Kazakhstan as being a place where, you know, was kind of like very poor, you know, kind of third world, even if that, third world nature. Well, guess what? It's really not. Kazakhstan has some amazing things. And I'm wondering why it's been hidden from us here in the United States. The capital of Kazakhstan is called Astana. 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 Let's look at Astana in this video.
Astana is located in central Kazakhstan.
Astana.
Astana surprised me in a
Look at
big
this.
way because I didn't expect it to have so much amazing architecture.
I'm looking for the
Palace
wasteland.
of Peace and Reconciliation in the form
Look
of
at our palace. It's
constructed in
a pyramid.
2006 to house the Congress of Leaders of the World and Traditional Religions.
To house the Congress of the World and Traditional Religions. Did you catch that? Built in 2006 to house the Congress of the World. Who's the Congress of the World? Let's look at the next one.
Nazarbayev Center in the form of a futuristic eye.
Look at this.
Kazakh National University of the Arts.
Oh my God.
Kazakhstan Central Concert Hall, and many others.
What
The main
beautiful
square of the city
buildings.
is the Independence Square. In the center, there's a monument, Kazakh Ali. It's a symbol of freedom and prosperity of Kazakhstan.
How could so much beauty have been hidden from us all this time, and why?
In 2017, all eyes were in Astana when it was hosting Expo 2017.
Oh, it hosted
The theme
Expo.
was Future Energy.
Yeah.
The Kazakhstan exhibition
Future
was
of
this
energy.
interesting building that looks like a bowling ball. It was impressive, but left many people.
Hey, that looked like the bowling ball that girl was holding.
$2.1 billion on this event without getting much in return.
Look at it. This is huge. They spent $2 billion to build this place. This is in the middle of nowhere. Let's look at this next one. Look at these mosques.
Astana Mosque. It was built in 2005.
Nur Astana
in
Mosque.
Oriental style. The mosque was built with the financial support from the Emir of Qatar.
Oh, Qatar.
Khalifa. Hazrat Sultan.
Oh,
Mosque,
another one.
which means Holy Sultan, a huge mosque with a dome and 4 minarets.
Wow.
And the largest
Another
mosque in
mosque.
Central
The
Asia,
largest
Grand
mosque in all of
Astana,
Central Asia.
With a total prayer area for 30,000 people.
Oh.
It opened recently in August 2022. The height of the dome is 83 meters, and the surrounding 4 minarets are 130 meters high. The central part of the city is Nurjol Boulevard,
There it is.
which translates as Greenwater Boulevard.
Rainwater Boulevard. Wow. One more here I think we got. Oh, no. Wait a minute. Why did they have all this beauty in Astana, in the middle of nowhere, Kazakhstan? Here's what got me. After doing a little research, what I found is they've got the lowest crime rate in the world, literally, compared to just about any other country. They're like in the bottom 1/3 or something. Statistics are amazing. Compared to America, we look at American streets. Do we see this? Let's look. Do we see this on America's streets? Next video.
Let's take a walk along the boulevard. It's 2.2 kilometers
This
long.
is a boulevard. 2.5 kilometers long. Kids riding bikes,
Lots of beautiful flower beds and different installations.
people enjoying picnics, flower beds, families walking around.
Of course, the Baitarek. Behind me is an observation
the
tower,
Baitarek.
and it's called Baitarek.
You know what that is?
And it's probably one of the most recognized
Baitarek.
symbols of Nur Sultan. It's 105 meters high, and it symbolizes a mythical tree of life and a magical bird of happiness named Samruk.
Symbolizes
Nearby you'll find the
the
presidential
tree of
residence.
life. This symbolizes the tree of life. There's a lot of symbolism going on here. One more video. Look at this building. Famous shopping mall. Kingdom under the tents. The largest tent of the world. Look at these people. Enjoying life, walking around. What I don't see is criminals running around. I don't see homeless. I don't see the drug infested, and I see families enjoying beautiful life. Walk along the river. Look at this. If we had a pedestrian area like that, there'd be all kinds of homeless sitting around the end sleeping, drug addicts. This is Astana, Kazakhstan, in the middle of nowhere. They have a low crime rate. We in America, if you had somebody singing in Central Park like this today, they'd probably be mugged. They'd probably be stabbed, robbed, shot, killed. America is going downhill, folks, and we're not even recognizing what's happening. The rest of the world, this is a nowhere place in the middle of nowhere, and we've got some of the largest countries, financially speaking, Qatar, World Emirates, supporting building places like this, which are refugees in the middle of nowhere. America, which was once the greatest nation in the world, is falling off the charts. We don't even recognize it anymore. Our campuses are in an uproar. Our streets, you can barely walk. You can't walk at night. Our kids are being inundated by drugs and alcohol. Murder is up, and our politicians are doing nothing. They don't want us to recognize that the rest of the world, there are places that are doing fantastic. Why? Because they have laws, because they follow law and order. America, it's time we stand up. It's time we take back and start rebuilding America to look and be the best that it can be. Some of the greatest airports in the world They're not found in America anymore. They're found in other places, everywhere else in the world except for here. It's time, folks, we take back America and fight. I want to show you something else. This is how I'm going to close out today's show. America needs to take back what the enemy has stolen from us. Of course, our enemy shows his face today by being a Democrat. I don't know, but that's just the way it happens to be. But the church is what I believe. They're the ones that hold the key. If the church rises up and be all that God called the church to be, strong, willing to stand in the place of freedom, willing to stand up for what is true and what is right, I believe we could take back the core values of America. And there's a movie that's available to anybody. It's called Letter to the American Church. Here's a trailer. Let's watch.
I'm convinced that the American church has arrived at a significant moment of truth.
We are only 75, 80 years removed from 3 separate regimes that killed 60 to 70 million people intentionally.
The parallels with where the American church is now to where the German church stood in the face of the Nazi regime are unavoidable and grim.
America's being torn apart. That's the truth.
Churches need to understand really what Marxism is, which is to destroy the church, to destroy the word of God.
So if you capture the seminaries, you capture the pastors, you capture the laity, you capture the soul of the world.
Yes.
Christianity is not just about saying Jesus loves you and then going to heaven one day, but that there's a war that's raging.
The church is weakening, which is why Marxism is ascendant in America today.
This is the hour of the American church.
Marxism has taken over America, folks. It really has, including the church. And this film is like a wake-up call to the church to stand up, to speak up against the evil that's manifesting in our country. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Mike Calo for Exposed, the Calo podcast. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.